Welcome to Star Watch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
Before we begin, let me say this clearly. When people first heard that Wang Yibo had appeared as a subject in an art examination, most assumed it was just another story about fame crossing into an unexpected space. A celebrity face, borrowed for attention, a marketing trick perhaps. That assumption lasted until a quiet voice from the art world stepped forward and said something that instantly changed the atmosphere. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't flatter anyone. He simply stated a rule that has existed in studios and classrooms for generations, yet is rarely explained to the public. The rule was this: the closer a face is to perfection, the less room there is for error. And in art, a lack of room for error is not a compliment. It is a test. Suddenly, the question was no longer why this face was chosen, but why so few faces ever could be. If beauty were merely about admiration, this story would end there. But this is not a story about admiration. It is a story about exposure, about pressure, about how a single image can quietly reveal who has skill, who has discipline, and who is only pretending. And once you understand that, it becomes impossible to look at this case, or at Wang Yibo himself, in the same way again. In the world of academic art, there is a truth students learn early, often through frustration rather than instruction. Faces with obvious irregularities offer comfort. A strong asymmetry, a heavy contour, an exaggerated feature allows the artist to hide small mistakes. The viewer's eye is forgiving when imperfection already exists. But when a face is balanced, clean, and restrained, every deviation becomes visible. There is nowhere to conceal hesitation. This is why experienced instructors choose such faces not as praise, but as instruments. They are not designed to reward, they are designed to reveal. When a student draws a nearly flawless structure, the result speaks immediately. Either the proportions hold, or they collapse. Either the expression remains alive, or it turns flat. No explanation can rescue it. No theory can soften the outcome. This is precisely why Wang Yibo's image carries such weight in this context. His facial structure leaves no space for excuses. What makes this particularly striking is that recognition does not rely on professional judgment alone. Even viewers with no formal training instinctively sense when something is wrong. They may not articulate why, but they feel it. A line too heavy, a distance too wide, a rhythm slightly broken. This instinctive response is what makes such an image powerful in an examination setting. It strips away the language of technique and leaves only results. In that sense, the face becomes a mirror, not of beauty, but of competence. This is why art educators describe such subjects as unforgiving. They do not allow sentiment to interfere. They demand precision, patience, and respect for structure. Over time, specialists from adjacent fields began to weigh in, not to glorify, but to analyze. Discussions emerged around proportional balance, facial zoning, transitions between bone and muscle, and the clarity of silhouette. Surgeons spoke not in terms of enhancement, but of natural alignment. Photographers noted how little intervention was needed to capture depth. Stylists observed how minimal adjustments altered presence without overwhelming it. Each perspective arrived at the same conclusion from a different direction. The structure was already there. What followed was not construction, but preservation. This distinction matters because it reframes the conversation. The focus shifts from surface appeal to underlying order. there is another layer that often goes unspoken. Sustaining this level of visual clarity over time requires restraint. It demands consistency in routine, in self-management, and in choices made away from the camera. In an industry known for excess, restraint is easy to overlook, yet difficult to maintain. This is where many attempts at imitation quietly fail. Similar features can be assembled, styling can be replicated, silence can be rehearsed. But restraint, maintained year after year, cannot be manufactured on demand. It grows from discipline, from awareness, and from a long-term relationship with one's own image. The entertainment industry, like any system driven by trends, has repeatedly tried to recreate what it recognizes as effective. New faces appear with familiar angles and carefully curated demeanors. For a moment, they seem close. Then time intervenes, pressure accumulates, consistency wavers, the resemblance fades. What remains is the understanding that form alone is insufficient. Presence is not a costume, it is an outcome. Wang Yibo's case illustrates this more clearly than most, not because he is louder or more visible, but because his impact persists without escalation. In an environment that rewards constant noise, steadiness becomes distinctive. Perhaps this is why the art master's words resonated so strongly. They offered no spectacle, only clarity. Perfection, he suggested, is not generous. It does not accommodate shortcuts. It does not flatter effort. It exposes everything. When such a face enters an examination room, it does not elevate the student. It challenges them, and when it enters public discussion, it quietly reframes what value looks like. Not excess, not imitation, but accuracy sustained over time. In that sense, the story extends beyond art or entertainment. It becomes a reflection on standards, on how certain benchmarks exist regardless of applause, and on why some figures endure not because they demand attention, but because they withstand scrutiny. When beauty becomes a test rather than a reward, admiration turns into respect. And respect once earned does not depend on novelty. If this perspective has changed the way you see not only this story, but the systems behind it, then you are already engaging with it at the level it deserves. At Star Watch Now, we aim to look beyond headlines and into the quiet mechanisms that shape influence, reputation, and longevity. Thank you for spending this time with us and for choosing curiosity over assumption. If you value thoughtful storytelling and insights that stay with you long after the screen fades, consider subscribing to the channel and joining our growing community. Your support allows us to continue exploring the stories that matter with care, clarity, and respect. Until next time, stay observant and keep watching closely.